if you can reframe this in your mind where nothing is truly painful, even though it is, when you're growing through that, when you're being challenged, when you have to leave either your practices, and this is something that I had to do. It's a continual, I always say, being an entrepreneur or a founder is personal development on steroids.
Yeah. Welcome to Extraordinary Stories. I'm your host, Forbes, Shannon, and with me,
Butler.
And today in studio, we have a phenomenal entrepreneur. I'm really excited for you to get to share your story. And before the show, we were talking about all the people in Extraordinary Collaborative and how you already knew most of them. I love it. Dr. Adrijana Dr. Adrijana Kekic.
You did it.
Okay. All right. It's that one was tough. And we even did the phonetic pronunciation before. I'm so sorry. But your company, Futurome, you're the CEO and the founder, and we're really excited you're here. So thank you so much for being here.
Oh, it's such a joy and honor to be here. Thank you for the invite. I cannot wait to dive into the conversation.
Yeah. Well, let's dive in. Like, what is on your shirt? Please tell us your.
Oh, yes. I probably should have more strategic placement of this whole thing. But basically, if you're listening, I'm wearing a shirt that has one red dot and a bunch of other black dots and a little tagline of our company that's called Know Yourselves, Know Yourself. This is a tagline of Futurome and actually what I believe in, my personal philosophy that was inspired by almost 3 decades of studying this cellular intelligence, which we call pharmacology. But it's also inspired by my personal stories and experiences that I have had personally with my health journey, which is more recent story for me. But the longer one, since I have known of myself, have been really health stories of both of my parents and also many family members. And so what this means is if you don't know your cells, you really may not know, number one, what's under the hood that could be driving the future of not only your health, but really of your life. And we are a lot more than just these small little, standard testing that you do, maybe 20, 50, 100, 200 biomarkers.
Yeah.
We have, God knows how many things that are communicating inside of our bodies all the time. And that's what this is really referring to. So what we do is we, as opposed to doing standard testing, which is what this red line represents, we really believe in this concept of understanding the world of system biology approach to health, which is called multiomics, genomic, epigenomic, proteomics, and all of these other microbiome, which we talked about just a moment before, all of these elements. We collate them. And then through another AI-based technology called digital twin, we can do two things. Say what's happening at a cellular level, hopefully years before you end up with a certain condition or disease. And secondly, more importantly, be it that you have it already or you're making one, like one in development, we can basically tailor your lifestyle protocols to say, what should you do, Christina and Forbes, in terms of nutrition, movement, sleep, stress, relational health, and of course, my biggest killer is substances, which would be like, how do we personalize your supplement stack, peptide stack, medication stack, and all of these other things? That was a long answer to this, but just really that.
I love it. And I love where we're at in science today, right? It is saving lives and it's changing our futures.
Yes, it really is. We were just making a comment how we live in the most exciting times, at least recorded history, where we are, like if you are driven by curiosity and of course, passion of learning and being present, this is it. You can, like with, LLMs, is there something that you cannot learn almost by yourself today?
Sure. Well, our shared desire for learning is how we met at Venture Cafe Phoenix. So why don't you explain to our listeners a little bit about kind of the Phoenix entrepreneurial ecosystem, because we do Venture Cafe Phoenix every Thursday in the heart of the Phoenix Bioscience core.
Yes, we do. I'm probably not the best person to do that. It's like you should be, as you are, the voice and the face of that. But I will tell you how I experienced it and what drew me to it. Would that work?
That's great.
Okay, perfect. So Phoenix has has this incredible brewing community of people who are really dedicated to their curiosities and the passions and the works that they do. And I found out rather about this through kind of the grapevine while I was still at the Mayo Clinic. One of my colleagues suggested, hey, I actually just won for a similar concept to this in 2023. Mayo Clinic has these innovation competitions, and I wanted this competition. And they said, hey, if entrepreneurial kind of like path is what you're really interested in, and you're looking perhaps in future for the funding and whatnot, or just other people who are doing some cool things, you should check out the Venture Cafe. That was my path there. And that's where I met some of the most incredible people who are doing, like Jasmine Bhatti. Jasmine was one of the people who also, invited me there. And so what that Venture Cafe means for me is the safe place where I can go and meet people who are, competitive in the best possible way. And that is, we want to create cool stuff, cool stuff. And so it's not like cutthroat, like you may have it in the Silicon Valley. Maybe, I don't know, I could be wrong about this, but that's my perception of that.
I love that.
That's where I met you.
Yeah. And, we teamed up with the Mayo Clinic to do a Scorpion Tank. So it's like Shark Tank, but it was healthcare focused. And,
Correct.
Scorpion, because we're in the desert. But, a big red thread of, all those different pitch competitions that we've done, but also in all the episodes of Extraordinary Stories with these really accomplished founders and entrepreneurs is that there was a personal story. There was a personal problem that led them down the path of creating the solution. So I'm curious, do you share that same red thread?
I absolutely do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wish that I didn't, but I'm now grateful that what happened to me actually happened to me. Do you want me to share? Is this why you're asking? I'll gladly share. So about a decade ago, Mayo Clinic hired me to do something called pharmacogenomics. I'm a pharmacist by training, trained in genetics or genomics. And so in about 2015-16, they really wanted to spearhead pharmacogenomics service, which means we can use your DNA to really tailor medication treatments for you. That's what I was tasked to do. So I did this and I absolutely loved it. I had really robust clinical practice, all that I was involved in education and research and amazing things. I always say I felt like a kid in a candy shop. Just amazing access to technology, to innovative ways of thinking in people. However, COVID hit, and I also had, my husband and I had a kid in the meantime. So just like I think almost every other founder that I have spoken to or met, because you're so driven by your curiosity and your passion, you completely forget about yourself. And so not knowingly to me, I slowly started to erode my health. I always prided myself being very physically active. I was a former martial artist and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm strong physically, mentally, nothing can really get me down. Well, in November 2021, this is kind of like working 15, 16-hour days through 2020 and almost the entire 2021. I tore 3 ligaments in my knee. And then in December, I was supposed to have a surgery at the Mayo Clinic to fix that, knee. And so the day before the surgery, I passed out at our kitchen floor. I was working remotely. I was just about to go pick up our son from the daycare, and I passed out. We have cameras in the house. So after about 6 minutes, I know this because I viewed, recording after. I came to it and I realized, oh my goodness, something is really, really off. And to shorten this story, what I had is massive pulmonary embolism. This is known as a silent killer. I was one of very lucky few that made through that. And I missed my own symptoms for a full month. I don't blame any of my physicians who also missed my symptoms because I was continuously downplaying really what was going on. Like I was excessively tired. I could not really properly function. But as any other high performing individual, you just put yourself through a grind. I'm like, I got this.
Yeah.
It's okay. Just me.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, after all of that happened, I realized, wow, I have a second chance at life. And I was already working with these AI-based technologies in the world of multiomics. And I thought, how the heck is it possible that in the 21st century, a healthcare professional almost dies of something that's completely preventable and it's missed? And so we need to have better solutions, which essentially then led me to get engaged with digital twin technology, 3D drug printing, multiomics, genomic testing, all of this other testing, so we can do this better. So you can essentially predict what you have going on in your body before you drop dead, like I almost did.
Yeah. I mean, like if it happened to you, it could happen to anyone.
Anybody.
Right.
Anybody, truly anybody. Yeah. Yeah. And so it was very much a rug pulled underneath my feet
Sure.
because I went from being a healthcare professional to overnight becoming a patient,
Right.
which is something that I truly dreaded, just having seen both of my parents' health battles and all of that. I'm like, my kid almost lost me.
Yeah.
So we need to do something.
But it's beautiful that you got something out of it and you're
Yes.
changing the world because of it.
Yes.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
That is beautiful. Now, go ahead.
No, you got it.
I was going to ask your kiddos, how old are your kids now?
I only have one.
Okay, just one. Right now.
He's 9 going on 19.
I have a 9-year-old going on 19. Yeah.
And then, yes.
Yeah, okay, so yeah, we relate on that. So how do you incorporate that into raising your children?
When I do into raising my kid, everything that I do very much informs.
Yes.
I think about like his nutrition, his mental state. I think what I want for my kid, and you can comment on this, is I don't want him to fall into, I think, what I was conditioned into. And that is, there's some benefits, obviously, but there are also some things that come with a heavy burden, and that is being a high performer with a high rate of just self-flagellation. And so what I want for him is I want him to be curious and passionate and alive and present, but also understand that there is more to life than just, pursuing school or working or whatever that is for him. I want him to be content as a person.
That's beautiful. And I noticed that like when we're parenting our kids, we're parenting our inner child. Do you know what I mean? So it's a beautiful two-way street there.
Yeah. I don't know how it is for me, but what I found initially, and I love my parents. I have the best parents in the world, 100%. But we also grew up in a very specific culture.
Yeah.
And so I think I was parenting my kids the way that my parents parented me, both good and maybe not so great, with lots of these expectations.
Right.
And then I learned, oh my goodness, I cannot. He's a person. He's not the extension of me. He's him.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, entrepreneurship is often described as a big leap. Immigration is also a similar leap. What were some of the similarities in those two different journeys?
Wow. Great question, by the way. Nobody has ever asked me that.
Cool.
So I would really need to think through that. But the gut reaction answer is nobody really hands you a manual.
Yeah.
At least I did not experience that. I will tell you what they handed us, Forbes, when we came to the United States. You can cut this out on the episode if it doesn't fit. They basically handed us like a little brochure.
Okay.
And they said there are 3 things you're really best not to talk about.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So these 3 things, if you can, in your daily conversations, maybe steer away from those. And there were politics, religion, and sex. Those were the 3 big things.
That's wild.
And
that's all we talk about on this show.
That's all we talk about. That whole. What am I going to talk about? Weather. Don't know enough about weather. Really.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Why that specifically?
I don't know, but I don't know. I don't have the good answer to that, but I can tell you that I did experience that firsthand until you get to know folks.
Yeah.
And this is why I love United States. I love our mentality. I love this country. I've lived here now longer than I have lived back home.
Wow. What was that like passing that? Because I'm going to hit that milestone here in Phoenix from where I grew up in Michigan. And it's surreal almost. You go home and it's not home. I don't know if that was my experience.
Yeah.
What about you?
It's the same.
Yeah.
It's the same. The very first time that I returned back home was a trip in 2015. So it was many years, obviously, after we moved. I don't know, maybe for you it was different. But it's a very interesting realization that you no longer belong fully. You're not fully just defined by this or by that, either place. And then you realize, my gosh, this is what always goes through my mind. Two things. Number one, home is really here. It's with people.
Yes.
Always. And you seek those people when you go and visit those old places. Those people are no longer the same people that you left before, right? We all matured, we all changed. And then the second thing, the second thing is that how much of our experience is actually informed by those places, because we're all brainwashed. Brainwashed in the best possible way, right? It's part of the culture, part of the community. I don't know, how was it for you?
The weirdest part was I forgot how to get places. And I grew up there. My mom's like, "Can you go to the store over here?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then I'm like driving, and I'm like, I don't know where this store is. And it was a place I'd gone to all the time. And it was like this realization of, okay, it's not the same home that I have now, where I felt, I guess, kind of what you're saying, I felt like a visitor.
Correct. Same for me. Same for me. That's why I'm saying home is really here.
Yeah.
It's who you carry with you. And sometimes even the people who live next door to you, or maybe family members that you have been close to in a way, right? Visiting or talking to for a long time. Especially I'm seeing this both with family members and friends. Being a founder, or being whatever it is that you kind of pivot from what you were doing to maybe a new way of being or new way of doing, you're going to lose, in a way, some of those folks, or at least the energy that you were previously putting in. You have to allocate it differently. And some folks will come on board with you, and some folks will be like, let's revisit this in the future.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And it's so good. It's all okay.
The founder's journey is very similar to like the hero's journey, right? Where you step from the known into the unknown, and then you assemble your team of mentors, friends, allies, and enemies. What has been your favorite part of that part of your journey, of assembling the people that are with you on your quest?
Again, this is going to be my response coming from my gut reaction. These are great questions. I have not pondered about these yet, because I'm so in the midst of the perfect storm right now that and even though I try to really reflect every morning, what comes to mind, Forbes, is how collaborative folks are. How willing are they to actually share their wisdom? Their really hard earned wisdom. Like I already have, I can give you a list of folks, including the very Jasmine Bhatti that we were talking about, who is the founder of Navi Nurses. Shout out to Jasmine Bhatti. But, there are many folks, like we have AZ Nerd Network here. Don Fott, shout out to Don Fott.
And that's where I met Aaron.
There you go. There you go. So Don, I consider Don to be really informal, if you will, mentor. But the list of folks here, especially in Arizona, that has been so instrumental in helping me think of, how do I do this? How do I preserve my energy while I'm actually doing this output? All of us founders, I believe, for the most part, are visionaries. You need operators. You also need systems to be able to do what is in your head. So that's what comes to mind, which is this camaraderie and collaboration, which is not something that I have truly to this extent experienced anywhere else.
That's cool.
It's amazing. Like, it gives me chills just thinking about that.
Yeah, it's crazy to see how a network can change your life forever. One person.
Forever.
Yeah.
Really forever. And some of the greatest friendships now, my adult friendships, have come from this. I don't know how it is for you, but you make friendships rather a little differently as an adult than when we were kids. Some of them are really difficult to get to, but those that happen like that, it's like magic. It's like a magic dust that sprinkles.
Like, you just know it.
Yeah. I write I read all these essays that are going to go into my book that's coming out. And one of the essays was around that idea of making friends when you're older, because I believe that something they don't teach you when you're younger is how averse people are to making friends when they get older. When you're a kid, everyone wants to be your friend. Then you become an adult and people just don't want to be your friend because we've got friends,
Yeah.
To your point, we have this incredible output of energy already. Like you have to really find something, like you say, magic, where you just know it, and then someone becomes your friend. Otherwise, it's tough to keep collecting friends, but then there's also a purging as well. Like what was the purging like for you as you went from one role into like a whole new entrepreneurship world?
I don't think there is a better word to describe this than painful. Uncomfortable, perhaps. Growth is always uncomfortable. And by the way, congratulations on your book.
No, thank you.
I cannot wait to read this.
It'll be fun.
I can share this with the world.
Yeah.
I love that you have included that part in your book, because I do think it's really, really important. How they say that 5 people close to you really obviously informs the quality of your life. This is true, and it's not just 5. It can be less and it can be a greater number as well. And it can be a number that really depends on the situation that you have going on in your life. Okay, so you asked me the purging question. So here's how I look at it. I always look at the silver lining. I look at, I don't necessarily, I gave the explanation of like this being painful, but it's really just the growth, right? If you can reframe this in your mind where nothing is truly painful, even though it is, when you're growing through that, when you're being challenged, when you have to leave either your practices, and this is something that I had to do. It's a I always say being an entrepreneur or a founder is personal development on steroids.
We get you.
Right? So when you grow, when children grow, and especially if they experience those growth spurts, you can actually see it in their tissue. They have those striae, like the little stretch marks. I feel like I'm dealing with stretch marks every single day because you have to implement either new strategies, new mindsets, and then you also have to sometimes leave certain people not behind, but pause on putting the energy into those relationships because they no longer bring value to both parties, not just you. I don't ever look at anything being one street. It's always two-way street. So anyway, it's growth. It's growth. A lot of growth, which is very uncomfortable, but what doesn't, challenge you doesn't change you also. And,
Yeah. Those growth pains or growing pains are intense, but they're worth it, right? You look back on it, you're so glad you have them.
Are there any growth pains that you would share with me as far as like a founder that I need to walk away with today to say, okay, that's okay?
I think it's just giving yourself grace because, and just like we talked with Jasmine just before this, she's like, just in the past 3 months, I've been 3 different people, in that world of entrepreneurship, right? And I feel the same thing, right? Like there's just so many things, patterns I'm noticing that maybe aren't healthy, that just can't fly in a business or being a leader, entrepreneur. So it's a lot of self-reflection. And just giving yourself grace.
That is really beautiful, and I can see how that would be incredibly key, integral. I work with most of my clients actually are entrepreneurs, founders, executives, and so on, and athletes even. But there is one very common thread that I'm seeing with founders and entrepreneurs, and that is, and I hate labels, but I'm going to use this word. I'm going to use this label. A lot of us have what's defined as ADHD. Right. And so there is it's like a Pandora box. Once you open it, like there's a lot of stuff that comes out. And so some of those things is going to be, well, how do I regulate myself emotionally? Because a lot of us who have that, it's a superpower, but it's also a huge anchor that can pull you down.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of weight.
Yeah.
So emotional regulation, having those practices that really feel dopamine hit you get from them, but also they feel like, oh, okay, this is giving me structure as much as it's giving me this like fuel to continue.
Yeah, I was recently just diagnosed. I hate labels as well,
Yeah.
and I'm not my label, but it's something that self-awareness is everything, right? So being aware of that diagnosis is everything. And you said it's my superpower, but at the same time, it's like you got to work with it for it to be your superpower.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Because I mean, think about it. Like, how many times have we gone without proper sleep,
Yes.
without proper eating,
Yes.
without moving, or maybe connecting with family and friends who know you from many eons before you were on this journey, and they can point certain things to you to say, hey, maybe you want to rethink that. Like, this is not as important as you're making it be. So having that system, and that means also people around you who can really call you out on your own BS is incredibly important. Yeah. My husband does that exceptionally well.
Yeah. So Aaron's
And it's really important, actually.
Yeah.
Semi-jokingly.
Yeah.
No, I get it. I think the growing pain that most helped me was learning to be comfortable in uncertainty. Certainty I found is the closer I get to being certain about something, the closer I get to my own destruction. And because when I'm certain that something's going to happen a certain way, I put blinders on and I block out everything else. And I'm unable to see anything else that may be appearing for me. And then with being an entrepreneur, with being a founder, you have to be able to expand your comfort zone to include the uncertainty of when the next deal is going to work, the uncertainty of the outcome of your message that you're putting out every day. You have to just be comfortable in the uncertain, I think, is probably the greatest growing pain that I'm still going through, getting comfortable with just being like, okay, I don't know how it's going to work, but I'm just going to trust that it will.
Yeah.
Well, and it goes to like the people around you, right? Like that, like not being certain feels better when you have someone there with you, being certain as well.
Which is why what you are doing with this is so important, because it makes me, I'm going to comment on somebody who's on the receiving end, right? It makes me feel seen, understood. It makes me feel that I can be more graceful with myself, because as much as you encounter a challenge that is like this big ordeal for you, somebody has already, like, there is a form of that somebody has already dealt with. And you can have two outcomes. You can have a really positive outcome from that, or you can have a big consequence in terms of energy, like deduction, but you're still moving. You're still going forward. I just want to go down this path where I have less of this energy that's wasted on things that don't matter as much, so I can allocate the energy into things that are actually important and are lever movers.
Yeah. Was there a time in your career where you like found that distinct like difference between what's a distraction and what's going to keep you moving?
Ooh, great question. I have clarity that I have right now in answering that question is I have two. One was when I was at Mayo Clinic, I realized, wow, this whole world of this new technology that's causing evolution and revolution in medicine is here. And we have, like, I mentioned pharmacogenomics. Even if you go across the United States, not to say globally, it's going to be very rare that you're going to find pharmacogenomics fully integrated into clinical practice. In other words, you may need to have that conversation with the physician to say, hey, I want to do pharmacogenetic testing. I need to be on pain medication, antidepressant, blood pressure medication, statin, whatever that is. I want to make sure that my body knows how to metabolize it based on my genetics. And by the way, genetics is not end all be all. And then I realized, oh my gosh, we have such dichotomy in terms of where we are in this very antiquated, not just healthcare, very antiquated way of thinking and doing work, including healthcare work, which is very reactive. And then you have on the other part of this, spectrum is going to be this incredibly fast moving technology that is like, oh, the genie's out of the box. There's no way of knowing where it's going to be. So I realized that micro learning was going to be the thing that's going to get me to what really interested me. And so micro learning, curating what I listened to, what I read, essentially what I was digesting in terms of the information, allowed me to maybe sometimes foresee certain trends that are likely trends to actually stay and solidify, and some other ones that maybe it was like, oh, this is interesting, but it doesn't have very firm legs to stand on right now. And the second one is what I'm experiencing right now. I'm kind of going through that process right now, but I'm trying to figure out, okay, we have AI that's disrupting, the bubble is going to explode. How do I anticipate? I'm building an AI-based solution. How do I anticipate for what comes next? Like, what's the true crucial value with everything that we're building? Is it just a solution? Is it people? Is it system? What is it? So I probably did not answer truly your question, but it's essentially that, being alert and trying to figure out, like, how do I build my own system right now?
Right.
I think whenever I think of distraction, I return to the idea of story, right? You know, I've had I've dabbled in writing movies with Ari,
amazing.
and we've written some movies. What's interesting is, like, the page count is critical. You know, is this extra tangent for this character that's going to cost 4 pages, which is 4 minutes, which could be an extra, tens of thousands of dollars? Is it relevant to the story? Because even as AI evolves, what entrepreneurs really are, these visionaries, they're just really good storytellers, right? Like, we're close to bringing back the woolly mammoth, which is an idea that just happened from a writer, Michael Crichton, who wrote Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Right. So as long as that story goes, we know that AI is going to change. The only thing that we know is that AI will change. Right. So it's like, what if you think, and this is something Aaron always says, if you think big enough, all the small problems go away.
Yes.
So,
yes.
What is the final story that we're telling? If you can be open to however that looks, right? You're not certain, not closed, not focused. The small stuff falls away. The distractions fall away.
This is so true in my experience, and I'm sure that you have stories to tell about that. It's interesting you mentioned the storytelling. 2 major pillars for us right now are really the client experience, meaning the outcomes that you get going through. And for me, it's also the content creation. So I'm an academic. I don't know how to speak yet in plain way that lands for people. I'm learning.
You're doing a great job.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah. So, but that's part of that is also the storytelling. And we're going through a process right now with Alice Cathedral Collecting, another shout out here to our AZ folks. We're documenting and he's also found their journey. And so he's a masterful storyteller. And so it's continuously refining, curating, thinking, what is the essence of all of this? And am I going to be proud of the work that I have put in? Not because I have made some big companies scaled or whatever. It's actually a lot more fundamental, and it translates over time. If I lived in the 19th century, 25th century, it would not have mattered. It would be that human capital, meaning, have I improved somebody's life, somebody's existence? And I don't mean through this. I mean simply through my interactions with that person. And I really try to do that through, like, at home, family, team members, because don't we sometimes, my experience, I'm not commenting on anybody else, I find myself sometimes treating strangers with more patience than I treat those folks who I know are partners, my core.
I get it.
My family, friends. Yeah. And I don't want that.
Yeah, for sure. And, like, no one can irk you more than your partner.
No.
Strangers cannot do to me what a partner can do to me.
Let's unpack that. What is that? Let's unpack that.
Because they know you, they know the vulnerabilities, they know where you're uncomfortable, and having good partners around. My girlfriend Amber is a phenomenal partner for me, and she does such a good job of continuing to pull me out of my comfort zone. She wants me to be better. She wants me, right? But they know where you're weak, so they can pull on that, right? And strangers don't know that, you know,
Yeah.
right? So they don't get underneath the armor, but they can just get under there real quick, right?
Well, and I think it's the same with business partners, right? Like
Yeah.
you, Aaron, and I, y'all co-founded Extraordinary. And so, you know, we're family, you know, and so like our fights are family fights. Like,
Yeah.
we're brother and sister
Sure.
at the end of
Yeah.
it, but you know, it can get
Yeah.
very vulnerable.
And it's also because all three of you care.
Yeah,
If you
exactly.
did not care, it would not feel as
Exactly.
hurtful or as impactful or whatever else. I always say, you know, if somebody told me, oh my gosh, you're such a bad mother, like my husband or like a family member, I would laugh it off because I know it's not true.
Exactly.
In deep in my core,
Exactly.
I know this is not true. But if somebody told me, Adrijana, your time management is like needs some working to do, or you have left X, Y, and Z undone, I would say, oh my gosh, this is so not true. Like I have the calendars and this is, in reality, it is true. In reality, that's exactly what I struggle with.
Yeah, right.
And so I think that's where it comes from. But it takes some time, of course, to come to the place where you're emotionally stable, you're emotionally grown, or are you growing to realize that this is an amazing feedback that you're getting and you better do something about it because the other person loves you. They want the best for you.
Yeah.
We ask this question of everybody that comes on Extraordinary Stories. If there was one piece of advice, and you've given so much, but if there was one piece of advice that our listeners could take today that would help them live more extraordinarily, what would it be?
I'm going to talk about what I think has been the most impactful for me. And this is informed, obviously, with what I do. Don't become biological liability. Because we're all right now focused on mechanics of things. We're all energy beings. We exist in this world as energy beings. We don't really think about that much, right? It's X plus Y equals Z. It's very materialistic in a way as well, mechanistic, materialistic, reductionist. And what I mean with don't become a biological liability is don't become reactive to what's happening to you. You have a lot more control, obviously. You are in control of your experience. That's something that you have a control. You don't have a control if you're going to have a civil war back home or whatever is happening in the world right now, or even how another person treats you, but you have full control over what you put in your body, what information you're putting in. And that can be food, movement, conversations that you have with others. That's where your true self truly emerges. And for that, to have that energy means being present in the world that you live in. You know, I'm a avid book reader. The reason that I love books is because you're entering a whole new universe. And imagine how many of these universes start to collate within you. That is your true you, right? That's why I love travel. You can do travel through books. You can do travel through actual like conversations, but also through actual travel. So don't become biological liability. This is why I do what I do, actually, to empower people to really be at the driver's seat of their own self, their own health. Because when you're dead,
it won't matter.
You're replaceable, by the way. You're only not replaceable to people who love you. And plus, you are like, imagine this off chance that we are born. Like just statistically, that we're here on this earth, that we're having
Like
this conversation. Like, what's the statistical possibility of this? Like,
and that we're just in space, like on a perfect planet.
Yeah. And so, it's you. It's our energy. So if you can protect that energy, then you can show up, and then you can go and do amazing things and then change the world.
Wow. You can read more about Dr. Adrijana Kekic. Sorry, God, you know, I really thought that was my second
You
time.
got it.
Really
Actually.
thought it was
It's great.
and future home at joinextraordinary.com. That's joinextraordinary.com. I'm Forbes Shannon.
I'm Christine Butler.
I'm Dr. Adrijana Kekic.
and let's change the world.
That's so much better than how I did it. We'll see you guys next time.